Got stacks on deck like he's saving up. By Cat and Cookies 66. Alright everyone, if you'll all follow me over to the metal detectors, we can give you your guest badges. The brown-haired tour guide, Connor, instructed, leading the decathlon group to the metal detectors. Ned and MJ followed loosely behind the team, somewhat deflated at the fact Peter couldn't join them because of stupid reasons. Okay, well, absences and being accused of forging Pepper Potts' signature on the permission slip definitely wasn't a stupid reason, but it wasn't like Peter was lying about her signing it, and she was allowed to sign it because she was one of his emergency contacts. Obviously, he could have waited for Aunt May to sign it when he got home from the tower that day, but Pepper was there and could, so why not? He handed it in and was accused of forgery. Yeah, maybe having Pepper Potts, CEO of Stark Industries, sign his field trip permission slip probably wasn't the brightest idea. Alright everyone, I'm gonna call out your names and I would like you all to come up here and get your badges, Connor explained, as he opened up a small box that sat on the desk next to the metal detectors. Inside, there were the guest badges for the students and Mr. Harrington. Can't wait to rub this in Parker's face, Flash smirked. Ned rolled his eyes, and MJ chose to ignore with a glare in the other direction. Connor pulled out the first badge. Betty Brant, he called, and Betty soon walked up to grab her badge as the tour guide continued to call out names and hand out badges. This is so cool, Ned awed, as he pinned his badge to his shirt. MJ looked over at the boy with a face of slight confusion. Don't you come here all the time with Peter? Isn't he like an Avenger or something? She questioned, pinning her badge to her shirt as well. No, Peter never invited me to come with him, so no. Also, yeah, basically, Ned replied, a slight disappointment in his tone with the realization of, yeah, wait, Peter has never invited me to hang out with him here. I could have met Tony Stark or one of the Avengers. MJ hummed in acknowledgement, turning her attention to the tour guide as he spoke up. Okay, so I'm gonna have you all go through the metal detectors, Connor explained, gesturing to the large machines. Make sure your badges are visible at all times. That's how Stark's AI knows you aren't a trespasser. She'll announce your clearance level and name once you go through. Connor continued. Connor walked through the metal detector to demonstrate, and the voice of Friday piped up, startling a few people. Welcome back, Connor Miller, clearance level 3. That's Friday, Stark's artificial intelligence. Everyone say hi to Friday, Connor exclaimed happily. Everyone greeted Friday with excitement. Some glanced around the large, white, clean space, trying to figure out where the voice was coming from, and others waved to the large ceiling. Hello, Midtown High School. Friday's warm, mellow tone spoke. The group gawked at just how cool this was. Your badges won't work after the tour. Don't try and get in afterwards or it'll be extremely embarrassing for you, but you can keep them if you want, Connor made sure to tell him. What does Friday mean when she said clearance level 3? A student questioned, to which Connor happily answered. Well, as you probably pieced together, everyone has different levels of access to the building. Usually I would have level 2 access because I'm an intern, but I have a higher level because I give tours as well. 1 is obviously the lower level of access, and 8 and 3 are the highest for people like Tony Stark himself or the Avengers, Connor explained with a kind smile. Will we meet any of the Avengers today? Another student asked. Obviously one of the most impending questions that people had when they go to Avengers Tower. Maybe. I know that some are here today, but I can't promise anything, Connor answered. And some students slumped at that answer. Alright everyone, form a line and go through the metal detectors, then we can start the tour in the Avengers Museum. Connor smiled, waiting patiently for everyone to meet him where he was standing. Right now in Peter's head, The only way he could describe Natasha was strict Russian ballet teacher. She was being extremely precise with how they stretched and trained. Especially him, because he was the youngest and most flexible beside herself. Obviously, the old men, like Clint or Steve, couldn't do a backbend or cool, flexible moves like Peter or Natasha could, so Nat cut the others some slack. But that didn't mean she was going to let them not train and get some good stretching in to keep them in shape. Natasha, is this really necessary? A tired voice sounded from a crumpled and sweaty blob on the floor in the shape of Clint. Yes, it is necessary. You guys have really gotten lazy. Natasha scoffed, offended that they would even ask. Because, yes, they have been getting lazy with training lately and are pretty out of shape. So maybe they deserve this. Especially Tony. A little shit. The others replied with a groan. Except for Peter. He just sipped from his cold water bottle as he sat cross-legged on the floor of the gym, while the others were scattered around the floor, making the gym look almost like a battlefield. A sweaty, gross battlefield. Peter wasn't tired. This old man-level training was a piece of cake for him and his enhanced. All right, Peter, your turn, Natasha said, stepping up in front of the boy and crossing her arms. Peter looked at her with confusion. My turn? Yes, your turn for training. Get up, Natasha replied, sternly. Peter followed her instructions and stood up, setting his water bottle down at his feet. But I thought we just did training. What do you mean by my turn? Peter questioned, his eyebrows pinched together in puzzlement. You really think I'm going to let you get away with just doing grandpa workouts? You're doing something harder, Natasha mused. Steve lifted his head from the floor. Who are you calling grandpa? He heaved out. Shut up, grandpa, Tony muttered with irritation. You want to talk, Tony? Rhodey grumbled. Natasha rolled her eyes and turned her attention back to Peter. All right, can you do the splits? What? Can I do the splits? What is that going to do to help me? Peter spluttered out, shaking his head in disbelief. Well, being able to stretch your body many different ways definitely helps with things like agility and combat. Plus, if you can do it, why not utilize it? Natasha explained, a small smile forming on her lips. I mean, I can, kinda, but... Peter mumbled out awkwardly, before he was interrupted. Okay, do it then, Natasha commanded, and Peter dropped his shoulders in a small sigh. Peter took a few steps back and was about to drop into the splits. There's no point in negotiating with Black Widow. Wait. Maybe there is. If I do this, can I have control of the music Friday plays? Peter asked, to which Tony immediately perked up from the floor. No. Yes. Sweet. Friday, play Super Bass by Nicki Minaj. Peter snickered. Yes, Peter, Freddie replied to the request. It's good to have a killer soundtrack behind your impending death, Natasha said, with a deadpanned expression. Wait, what? Ned and MJ looked around the Avengers Museum in silence, a little awkward around each other because they usually have Peter around to fill the silence. Yeah, Ned would point out cool things he saw like a replica of Thor's hammer, or tell MJ about some of the cool facts he read about each Avenger, but other than MJ's short replies and humming of acknowledgement, they didn't say much to each other. They wandered around for a moment until they saw a certain combination of red and blue. Whoa! They have a Spider-Man display? How come Peter never told us about this? Ned gawked at the sight of Peter's old suit, which was littered with holes and dirt, and a replica of his new suit on display. Probably because Peter doesn't actually have an internship here, Flash slyly commented, walking up beside Ned and MJ to look at the display of his favorite superhero. Ned and MJ just gave Flash a look as he continued to talk. Too bad he couldn't be here. Sounds a little suspicious, right? The fact that he just so happened to not be able to go on the field trip to Stark Industries. Peter isn't lying, Ned muttered, giving Flash a slight glare. Well, sucks he can't be here to see this. You know, him being friends with Spider-Man and all. Flash smirked, making sure to add air quotations with his fingers on the friends with Spider-Man part. He isn't lying about that either. Ow! Ned replied, followed by MJ jabbing his arm with her finger. Just drop it, Ned. There's no reasoning with stupid, MJ said flatly, to which Flash's eyes widened and his mouth opened to say something. Midtown High School, meet me by the elevator, please. Connor called out to the class, and students started to gather at the elevator with the tour guide. Flash rolled his eyes at the pair and walked off to join the others. Ned and MJ just looked at each other and smirked as they followed everyone else to the elevator. Mr. Harrington counted the students to make sure everyone was there and gave Connor a thumbs up once he confirmed. All right, everyone, so we're on to our next portion of the tour. We're going to the Avengers gym to see where the Avengers train every day. Every day, my ass. Excited chatter quickly filled the room, and Connor and Mr. Harrington quickly shushed everyone and got their attention back. I have no idea if anyone's there at the moment, but regardless if someone is or not, I need you all to be extremely respectful, Connor stated, as he pressed the button for the elevator. Everyone exclaimed their excitement to each other, much quieter this time. They all filed into the elevator, and Connor asked Friday to take them to the Avengers gym. The class was practically shaking with excitement. They all had similar thoughts of, holy shit, we might meet an Avenger! They all whispered quietly to each other as they got closer to their floor. But as they did, a certain song was blaring from the nearby speakers. Is that Super Bass by Nicki Minaj? Connor's face scrunched in confusion as they reached their floor. The elevator took a minute to open, but when it did, everyone was taken aback by the noises of discomfort and Super Bass filling the room. Ow, ow, ow! Natasha, stop! It hurts! No, it doesn't. Tony, come help me hold his other leg down. Yes, ma'am. The class stumbled out of the elevator to see something they would probably never forget. Peter fucking Parker was being held down by Captain fucking America and Tony fucking Stark, as Black fucking Widow was pushing one of Peter fucking Parker's legs back in a way they never thought Peter fucking Parker's legs could bend. While the other fucking Avengers just sat and watched as Peter fucking Parker was pretty much being tortured to Super Bass by Nicki fucking Minaj. Natasha, I don't think my leg is supposed to bend that far, Peter sobbed, as Natasha kept pushing his leg back further. If it's not supposed to bend that far, then why is it bending that far? Natasha said, in a tone that Peter could only describe as evil. It's all right, Underoos. It's for your own good, Tony added, through chuckles of amusement, as he held Peter's other leg down, and Peter just whined in reply. What the fuck? Flash uttered, his eyes, as well as everyone else's, glued in shock, and Mr. Harrington was in too much disbelief to even correct his language. Ned and MJ just looked at each other, unsure of what to say. Is that Peter? Betty mumbled. That's Peter, Ned replied to Betty. Fuck! Peter cried, as Natasha pushed his leg back far enough that his knee could touch his nose. "Language!" Steve scolded, holding Peter's shoulders down. "Shut up, fun police!" Peter gritted out, to which Steve gasped. His eyes widened and mouth opened in a disapproving look. "Did Peter just tell Captain America to shut up?" Ned muttered, and MJ's lips pressed into a straight line as she nodded slowly. "And he called him the fun police," MJ pointed out under her breath. Rhodey's gaze shifted from the floor and to the group that stood at the window with their jaws on the ground. Natasha, we have company." Rhodes tried to speak, but Nicki Minaj and a loud whine from Peter drowned out his voice. Clint heard, though, and followed Rhodes' eyes to the window. "Come on, you're fine! Spider-Man doesn't cry like a baby!" Natasha shouted. "This Spider-Man does!" Peter said through tears. "Oh my... Natasha!" Clint yelled over Peter and the blaring music and caught her attention. Some of the students flinched at the sound of Clint's voice. Natasha let go of Peter, who sighed loudly in relief, and looked at Clint, leaving Peter crumpled on the ground. "What?" Natasha wondered, and Clint jerked her head towards the direction of the tall group, and Natasha mentally face-palmed. Everyone but Peter finally realized they were being watched, with wide eyes, and stopped what they were doing. "Oh shit, I forgot there was a tour today," Tony commented, stealing Peter's water bottle and taking a sip of much-deserved water. "Friday, mute," Tony called out. "Yes, boss," Friday replied, turning off the music. "Tour?" Peter muttered, slowly and tiredly getting up from the floor. Peter glanced around at the others, and then looked at what their eyes were on. Bad idea. Ned smiled and waved at Peter from behind the class, and Peter hesitantly waved back, with a look of shock on his face. Peter looked around at his classmates, wondering how much of that they had just witnessed. Everyone looked pale and dead, especially Flash. If Flash didn't close his mouth in the next 5 seconds, a bird was going to swoop in and make the inside of his mouth its new nest. "Wait, Peter, do you know them?" Steve questioned. Peter slowly nodded his head and responded, "That's my Academic Decathlon group." "Oh," Steve replied. "This is quite the predicament they're in." Peter stumbled tired and anxiously over to the door of the gym and opened the door. Thoughts of, how much did they see in here? And, holy shit, my secret is busted, ran through his head as he walked out. "Peter? You're Spider-Man?" Flash sputtered out, his hands gripping his hair in disbelief. Oh, so that's how much they heard. Peter mumbled, as Tony stepped through the door and threw an arm over Peter's shoulders, making him stagger. "I'm gonna have to you all sign some NDA papers,"